Hi there, guys. Welcome to this episode of Campcast. I'm speaking today with, her name is Susanna, but I call her Susan. So I'm just going to go and grab my morning coffee. It is super early here. Susan has a really passionate and wide spectrum of interests, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to get her on the show. Even without leaving the letter P, I can remember that we spoke about planets, protests, Pasternak, parsnips, plutonium, and everything else in between. So it was really great to speak to her, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Okay, super. So we'll just do a quick sound check, make sure everything's okay, and then we'll just start rolling.
Okay,
I
cool.
think my cat wants to go out. No, it's all right. Is my sound okay? Yours is fine. You can hear me. You can see me.
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, super duper.
I love your t-shirt.
Oh, thanks. That was it was a present from a friend of mine, from a class of mine actually. So yeah, it was really nice. Something to remember Siberia by. Apart from all of the memories of the cold and the snow and all of that. So I mean, I think we've already started. So let's just keep going. Susan, is it, or Susanna? How do you prefer?
It's any. I mean, in Russian it's Susanna. So, and then in English they normally say Susan.
Susanna. Well, I can call you Susie.
Yeah, that also works fine.
Kind of corny. No, I don't like that. I'm going to call you Susan. Why not? I'm in a particularly English mood today. So, Susan, thanks very much for coming on the show. Congratulations, by the way, on I see you hit 6,000 followers yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. Thanks. I was like thrilled when I saw it yesterday because when you start these things, I was like, okay, if I have like 500, that would be great. And I was like, okay, if it's 1,000. That would be exciting. And I was like, 6. I don't know where these people come from, but
yeah, I know. And it's you're always playing catch up with someone else because you're never going to be the most popular. Because I was really happy. So at the time we were recording this, I've nearly got 700 followers. I think by the time this goes out, I'll be close to 1,000. That's my real first milestone.
I mean, you actually have doubled already. I mean, last time we talked, it was about 350, as far as I remember. I checked, and now it's about 700. Yeah, so it's cool.
Yeah,
I do use targeting, of course, but not much, and so I can't say it's purely clean and not paid. Yeah, I do pay like 100 rubles a day.
Oh yeah, of course. You gotta do that.
Sometimes I switch it on, switch it off, just for fun because I'm kind of learning. But yeah, It's definitely it's impossible to catch up with anyone. I mean, there are people out there with thousands, tens of thousands, like 20,000. It doesn't matter really.
And I mean, if you're looking at something like quite specific, like preparation for specific exams, I think tens of thousands is the best you're going to do. Then there are certain people. I don't want to name any people by names because I know some of these people, but there's certain YouTubers, people who are sort of English folks or foreign folks, let's say, like me, who speak Russian and do like a YouTube channel in Russian. As I said, I'm not going to name any names because I do know some of these people, but they don't always speak very good Russian. That's the secret. Sometimes.
Not as good as yours, right?
Well, I mean, I know I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I don't have a YouTube channel like that. So, I mean, I mostly use my YouTube channel for A, publishing this podcast, and B, making videos about mushrooms and Greek mythology. So yeah, all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, and actually the more you get, it's now harder to understand how many of them actually see a post. I mean, when there were 300 people, I definitely knew, and I mean, like there was a post, 300 people in my community, 300 definitely like saw it and interacted, and now it's 6,000. So obviously a third of them just missed a lot of posts, and now I start posting more. I mean, I think I used to have like 3 posts a day. Now it's 1 post a day because I know that it will just, be gone.
So what's the what are your tips for, because obviously your page is still quite young, but compared to mine it's ancient. So as someone who is up and coming, who is has got a fledgling community and a fledgling podcast, what is your advice? What do I need to do?
Like to attract people? Oh, just basically just to get started, because for me I was circulating, like I felt this need to do something, and I didn't know where to start. And I was like, what shall I start with? What should be my first post be? Like what? And then I was just like, okay, you just have to do it. And I posted some random article. Just I think coronavirus was already in full swing. Yeah, it was March. And somehow people started coming. I was like, okay, now I can see by the feedback, by their likes, interaction, I can see which material they like more. And that's why I add more, because I was actually surprised. I thought people would be taken aback with like the Economist articles, because they're really difficult. And then I see these are the ones that are reposted mostly. And then I started adding more, and I see people like it. So yeah, I basically look at the comments and the likes and what's interesting. And then you always get the statistics. With YouTube, I have no idea, because I have the YouTube channel, but it's empty. So I basically registered everything within one brand, so to say, to make sure later I will kind of like a website, a YouTube channel, a VK, a Telegram, an Instagram with the same name, so that it will be kind of mine. But yeah, I have no idea.
Telegram, eh? What are you, some sort of terrorist? So you can teach English, but if that doesn't work out, you can sell drugs. So it's all, you've got all the bases covered. Very nice, very nice. Although apparently, according to Snowden, Telegram isn't the most secure, isn't the safest. He named some other one, but I don't know. I'm not a terrorist, so I don't need. I'll just use WhatsApp and let the FS.
I think it's somehow connected with VK. I just find some bot, and I've connected them automatically, and it just reposts all the posts to Telegram automatically. I don't even check that.
Oh, nice.
Just because some of my friends said like, why are you doing it on VK? It's not popular anymore. We would like to see it on Telegram. I said, okay. Here's an automatic repost for you. Yeah, it's for free. I can send you later on if you need.
Yeah, please do.
You kind of do some technical stuff, and then it all works fine without you. Yeah,
I'm not too I'm not like a technophobe by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not like super amazing with these with all these online interwebs and all this stuff the young kids are doing these days. So yeah, some help would be appreciated. Yeah, we'll speak after. We'll speak after. You can get me.
Let's get back to business.
Absolutely.
Do you have a specific topic today, or was it like?
Oh no, any old stuff really, right. Whatever. But yeah, in terms of gaining popularity for your page. I mean, so one good thing about if you focus on Cambridge exams, there's a series of Cambridge exam specific pages.
Yeah.
We can all name them. And I think this is not to cast aspersions on your content, which is very, very good, by the way, and people should definitely go and check it out. But I think that what often happens is that someone's subscribed to this Cambridge page and they think, oh, okay, here's a bunch of others. I'm going to go click, click, click. And there's like a circuit of people who subscribe to all of those pages. And again, that's not to, in any way denigrate what you're doing. But I think that definitely gives you a boost, doesn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, well, actually, these days people very often just like because hopefully they will like look at it later. There's so many these days, I think they're spoiled for choice. We are all spoiled for choice, so it's really hard to come up with something. So that's why I started. Basically, I thought, what difference could I make? And that's why I started making all these like tasks. They are based on authentic materials. So I'm heavily against it. I don't know. Sorry, Friends Day and other communities. I hate, and I would never. I think it's only once I did, and because it was already on VK, that's why I shared it. Like I hate sharing materials which are illegal, like books, all the this kind of these areas that are out there. I can help someone, like when sometimes they text me in private, I can help them. Like I give a hint how to find it. but I wouldn't like my community to be just like a sort of a library or something which is illegally uploaded so that everyone could download it. And I also hated the idea of, I mean, it takes a lot of effort as well. I really appreciate it with other communities, like people taking up exercises from the books and posting them on VK. But I thought that wouldn't be very original. So that's why I thought my edge was, in this case, like this gives me a competitive edge, so to say. I take something really authentic. I don't change it in any way. I don't adapt it to FC or C and then just make a task, hopefully, which kind of fits in with the exam. And it's still manageable and doable, even for those who are like FC. Yeah. So I hope I will keep doing that, because I would really hate, and I think many communities started like that, very regional. And now it's really hard to keep up, so many people, so many followers. So they just now randomly, maybe tired of it, randomly post some stuff which is already out there, like, you know, reposting some videos with no meaning. And people like to repost them. And then my question is like, do you ever watch it? Because it takes time, right? So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you're right. A lot of people use pages like as a bookmark, like, oh, that looks good. There's probably some good stuff there. I'm not going to read it now, but I'll just follow anyway, and then I can, you know, when I'm in Cambridge mood, I can go and look at it later. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And good for you that you don't, first of all, that you don't steal or plagiarize material, because a lot of people do. A lot of people do, and I'm sick of it. I thought I would never find another group of people on the planet who downloaded more illegal music and illegal books and illegal everything than the English. But then I moved to Russia and I was like, wow. But Russians, if you try and say to a Russian, why are you downloading that illegally? It's stealing. They just simply won't understand the question. It's like, pay for stuff. People put their time into that. People like, and it's like, oh no, these artists, you know, like Kanye West has got millions of dollars. You know, he doesn't need my money. I'm like, what are you talking? What about the people who recorded that and edited it and marketed it and put it on the disc, and you know, the guy that delivered to the shop? Like, all of those guys need money as well. You're stealing people's labor. Why don't we all just go and live in the goddamn Soviet Union? All right.
But we're lucky, right, in Russia. I mean, I have in my time downloaded all these, but then of course I also have them, you know, in a hard copy, so it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, no. If you already own it, then of course you can download it as much as you want, because you've already got the copyright. That's that. Yeah, of course, that's fine.
Well, it's silly to pretend we can't, though. I mean, in Russia, we're so happy to have all this illegal stuff.
Yeah, it's like, and of course, I'm only being half serious, because I think if you can afford it, you should pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's, you know, end of discussion, end of moral analysis. If you've got the money, don't steal stuff. However, if you're like a poor student, or you don't have any money, or you know, you're a kid and your parents won't give you money, and you want to get access to music and arts and educational materials, then I think there is definitely an argument that you should be able to access it for free. It's like how, you know, you go to a museum in Britain, all museums here are free. No, most museums here are free. There are
all the proper museums, actually. That's what I love about it. Yeah, all the good ones. I mean, not commercial, like Madame Tussauds, for instance.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of the private ones are really good, and some of the best ones are like private collections. But even a lot of the private ones, the whole mentality with museums here is that if you can't pay, you don't have to pay.
Yeah.
So when you go into a museum in the UK, there's normally like it says suggested donation £10, and so there's me and my wife there. I pay £20.
Well, that's lost, because normally it's like £1 for a map, right? So walking.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, if you don't have the money, and when I was a student, I went to, like, you know, I was at Manchester, I went to, you know, the art museum there and the history museum, and I didn't pay because I didn't have enough money, and now I'm paying it back, as they say.
Good for you.
Anyway, enough of us congratulating ourselves for paying for stuff that we have to pay for. Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, you know, I have the same kind of idea as you. I try to be authentic to myself. I think, in all honesty, if I really wanted to, I probably could, like, you know, make, you know, one of those, as people keep saying, you know, Indian guy on YouTube videos, explaining about, you know, all the English...
I'm sorry, I've just lost you with connection. People saying what?
So people, also saying is that is my connection okay now?
Yeah, now that's maybe.
Don't worry, I'm not going to edit this out. This is all going to go in the podcast. I think people like the wrinkles, people like the imperfections, or at least I'm telling myself that because I'm too lazy to edit it. But like, all I was saying is that I think you could, like, I could go online now and I could make one of these, crappy, one-time useless videos, like, все английские времена за 30 секунд, like all English idioms, and they drive me crazy because it's normally idioms that no one ever says anymore, or a really bad explanation. Like you could maybe explain some of the simpler tenses in 30 minutes, 30 seconds for all tenses. I don't think so. 30 minutes maybe for one tense, but yeah, it drives me crazy. And I want to share things that I'm passionate about, that I'm interested in. I want to make videos about porridge and about collecting mushrooms and about Greek mythology and about moral philosophy and all sorts of different stuff, because I think that's the kind of thing that makes people's hearts beat faster, and that people actually are passionate about discussing. So I was contacted, I think it was 2 days ago, by one of my subscribers who is a big fan of yours, and she said, you need to get Susan on the podcast. You've got to speak to her because she's got a really wide spectrum of interest. She said you've got a really wide spectrum of interest. And she said you can discuss anything with her, from space. So let's talk about space and socks. So you have quite a a wide variety of topics that you like discussing, am I right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know where that came from. Maybe because of the content, because I basically, with experience of preparing for Cambridge and IELTS and everything, you definitely know like the range of topics that the students have to know. So I just decided to go bit by bit, like every once in a while, 2 or 3 weeks, we take one topic and then I find different materials to support it. And this is where it came from. And one of the first topics was probably space. The thing is, but I mean, it was space just for fun, and because Elon Musk has done something again at the time, so it was quite it was quite timely, but basically I'm a fan of space myself. In terms of exam, it was more about, like, of course, science and technology and how should we invest into it or should we not. But yeah, I'm kind of versatile. I don't know. Basically, because I teach. I teach English for sure, but I also teach at university, so I teach different specialities. So what do you call it? Like to different majors. I teach the physicists, so I have this skill. I have to know the physics. I teach at Joint Institute for Nuclear Research, so that's why I have some basic knowledge of nuclear.
You check out my tattoo. Do you recognize it?
Wow, that's a long one. Wow, it's a solar system, isn't it?
It is, but do you recognize where it's from? This thing here?
Oh, where is it? Is it from a book? No,
it's from Voyager. So
Voyager, right? Oh, wow, lovely.
For guys who are listening who don't know, there were 2 probes sent up in the 1970s. I think it was 1976, 1978. I may be wrong about that.
I think it was about the time, yeah.
Voyagers 1 and 2. Voyager 2 is actually further away from Earth than Voyager 1 is at the moment, even though it was launched afterwards. And
they finally, it wasn't that they finally restored the connection with one of the Voyagers, because there was something in the news recently, like the one which is the furthest, they kind of lost connection. They were trying, and it took them like 6 or 7 months, and very recently, like about 2 weeks ago or something, they just finally restored the connection. I can't believe it's mind-blowing. I mean, I can't even imagine where it is now, and they somehow have connection.
Yeah. It's mad. And if you go online and type into Google, where is Voyager now, and you can see the coordinates of where it is in the solar system, and you can see how many miles or how many kilometers it is from the sun or from the Earth, and you look at the numbers, it's just going like that. It's like the national debt counter. It's unbelievable. Going like just hundreds of kilometers a second.
I should definitely check that out. I know that you can see where ISS is, like, and sometimes spot it above your house, but I didn't know about the Voyager. Oh, so sweet.
An interesting thing about ISS, and I don't know, this may be an apocryphal story, it may be kind of made-uppy, but I heard that when they were building, because obviously it was a joint Russian and American project, when they were building it, there was going to be two separate modules, one built by the Russians and one built by the Americans, and they had to assemble it in space, and one had to build a female part and one had to build a male part, but neither country wanted to be the female part, so they had to completely redesign.
Oh my!
It's
seriously?
so pathetic, isn't it?
No kidding.
So they had to redesign it so that it was like one of these things, like a tow hitch, you know, like on a car.
Yeah. Truly. Yeah. Okay.
So no one wanted to get ridden in space, which is fair enough. But yeah, for basically on Voyager there was, as you know, there's a golden record attached, as in like a vinyl record, but made of gold, obviously.
Yeah.
And on the record there's all sorts of recordings from Earth, the sound of a human voice, the sound of our music, of, you know, this and that. And there's also inscribed, as well as instructions on how to play the record, there's a map of our solar system. So obviously these are the planets right here. Sorry for people who are listening to the audio version of this right now, but you know, go on YouTube. So you've got obviously the planets, here's us, and here's the asteroid belt, and this is our sun. So the idea is that the sun is in the middle right here, and these different lines indicate the location of different pulsars. So a pulsar is a type of neutron star, as you know, of course, which spins on its axis and emits, I think it's X-rays, is it, at a very regular interval, which means that it's almost like a beacon, like a flash.
Yeah, exactly. You can read it.
Yeah, precisely. Now I don't have this detail on my.
Well, this one is very detailed already, I must say.
But there's another thing.
Incredible.
Basically it looks like, I'll just draw like a quick thing.
We're
so
like
something like that, which is two circles, and then there's some sort of binary code in the middle. Basically any sort of advanced alien civilization that ever found that, they would hopefully would understand that that's two hydrogen atoms, and the way that if two hydrogen atoms bind, the shared electron that they have, it moves in between the two atoms at a very predictable speed, which is obviously how atomic clocks work, because it happens at a very predictable rate. And so using that, they could extrapolate the scale of the map, so they can figure out how many kilometers.
Right. Oh wow, that's nice.
Version of kilometers is they could figure out how to get to our planet, which Stephen Hawking said was probably the worst idea we've ever had, because, you know, we may have invited a bunch of predators to Earth.
Yeah, probably. I knew the stuff about sounds, and I didn't know and coordinates. I didn't know how the measurements. Well, that's nice. I should read that. Yeah, it's a lovely one. Pretty so cool. do you think there is someone out there? So they will find?
So my thoughts on it are that the most likely situation is that, you know, life is, of course, you know, we think that life is special, but, you know, from the point of view of chemistry, there's nothing special about life. In fact, it may be that life, and indeed consciousness, is an inevitable consequence of complex carbon chemistry. If you get enough atoms together, then they start wondering why they're together. Having said that, it's such a, you know, on sort of human scales, it's such a rare event that the most likely situation is if my screen is the universe, and there's probably pockets of life all throughout the universe, but they're so distant from each other that even if they did have the technology to travel to another pocket of life, that pocket will probably have already died by the time it gets there. You know, on a universal scale, you know, it's just like, you know, thunderclouds flashing in the night sky. Yeah, so I mean, there's also that. Have you ever watched Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson? The Netflix? No,
I haven't. Should check that out probably.
It's really awesome. And
didn't see like Space Odyssey and something else, but
it's
a series or is that a film?
It's a documentary series.
Documentary, right?
And he talks about the sort of cosmic timescale, where if you imagine that the entire history of the universe is a year calendar, then everything that we call human civilization would happen at the last second on the 31st of December at 1 minute to midnight. Yeah. That is how short our pathetic human existence has been in the whole history of the universe. And will be very short in universal terms. But anyway, let's not focus on the death of our species, shall we?
We are doomed. I actually remembered it now once you said documentaries. My PhD is based on documentaries. That's where it comes from. That I know many different things I have to know. Yeah, because the materials I'm using for my PhD is documentaries, English, basically British.
Tell me about your PhD.
It started with some, like as usual, start with some very huge like topic, and then you can't brace it, so you just have to specify it. But basically, yeah, the materials was documentaries, and it's linguistics, Germanic languages. So basically, the essence was that I had to analyze how the documentaries are made to, to keep the target audience, and like all the verbal and non-verbal things, all the means of keeping them interested. And basically it was specified finally to the point that apart from images or anything and the sounds and everything, because I still have to analyze the language. In terms of language, all the documentaries that I've analyzed, they are heavily based on, what do you call it in English, antithesis?
Antithesis.
Yeah. Like almost every second sentence in a documentary has antithesis. Like it's I don't know, like in thousands of something, there's one tiny this, for example, or we would think like it's something cold and something hot. Like almost every second sentence in any documentary is always this kind of a position, and it is really catchy. It's relatable. It's understandable by mass audiences because people do feel antithesis in any language. So yeah, and this is where I ended up, because I wanted to analyze sound as well and music and how, reaching the climax of any documentary. But then the old, glass linguists were like, no, this is too modern. You can't do that. Only language. And I was like, okay. So I had to, so now it's boring. I know.
Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, of course, I've never done any sort of study at such an advanced level, but I mean, when I was doing my university dissertation, I started off in a very, very wide spectrum. So I wrote mine about Anglo-Spanish naval history, and then I started researching, and I spent some time in Spain where I was working in military archives and libraries and museums and stuff, and then I finally got down to a super narrow topic about textbooks and sort of naval culture and stuff in society. It was all very, very boring. Well, not for me, because I really love naval history, but for most people, very boring.
No, when you're doing it, you're really involved, so it's still interesting. It's exciting. Yeah,
absolutely. So one thing I wanted to ask you about was, obviously you seem like a person who has a lot of different interests and the sort of quite wide spectrum of, as I said, of interest. This krugozor, which my sister mentioned. But given that, what, in your opinion, is the purpose of doing an exam? Because exams are very, very narrow snippets of language, and frankly speaking, especially when we get to the sort of higher, like CPE type of exams, that they're frankly speaking not very natural sounding. It's very artificially heightened language. So what is the point of studying an exam? Why not simply open Wikipedia and just have at it? Why not simply just watch documentaries and speak about philosophy with your buddies and all of that?
Do you have enough of buddies to talk about with, in the Russian-speaking environment? Would you find enough of buddies to talk about like some random documentary in English? And even now, when people have
practicing Russian, you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, you say with if I think it's hard to imagine a situation, a person who wants to boost their skills and language just watching documentaries and eager to discuss it with someone. So they definitely have to have a company, right? I'm very much afraid it's hard to find an eager company of like friends who would also like to watch something in English and then discuss it with you for no reason, but for just boosting skills.
There was some sort of conversation club where you could come twice a week and discuss all sorts of
they do. Topics. I mean, even my city, they do have this. They're really these enthusiasts, but I think it's still at this point, apart from all the other, good things that exams bring you. They definitely have, at least, okay, I don't like IELTS, although prepare for it. I don't like IELTS in terms of language progress. I don't think it gives you any. It's just very immediate, and I believe it's very immediate. It gives you the result and you can't see the progress. With Cambridge, I still believe it's more, with this new Cambridge scale, where you can really watch your progress. I tend to now look at these exams just something you can kind of relate to and see where you are and the way you're going. And if you're watching a documentary just for fun, you probably will, you're very likely to use something you like, and it's only one topic. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't be that versatile. And then you can also, you will simplify it for yourself, won't you? If you know what I mean. It's hard to, if you are pressed for exam preparation, you will definitely kind of have to force yourself to do something you don't like, to read the articles you don't really want to read sometimes, yes? And if you're just doing it for fun to boost your skills, first of all, you can't basically measure them properly, right? Not as the exam measures it. So you may say you're advanced. Once we start kind of checking your advanced, chances are it won't be, for example, by Cambridge scale, it won't be that advanced, right? It won't be that versatile in all skills, so to say. That's what I mean. But yeah, I'm not saying that everyone should take an exam. It's just
that's very true, actually, and that really reminds me of people who come to my classes and say, oh yeah, I was I was watching sometimes to practice listening, I'll just watch a like a Netflix show in English, and I understand about 80% of it, and I'm like, well, how do you know you understand it? Maybe you understand 10% of it.
Right. Or especially if we're just watching Friends, and as much as I love them, but the topics are, what do you say, every day. And it depends. If a person just wants to feel easy and on a daily basis, we don't need to talk about dire consequences and long-term disastrous effects of something. But if we really master the language, then probably we should do something about exams, or at least the books. You don't have to take an exam actually, but just to train, probably.
Sure. But no, you're definitely right about IELTS as well, because don't forget what the I in IELTS means. It's international, so it's an international testing system. You, as the candidate, you are not the client for IELTS. The client, or the person who is best served by the language, are the universities, are the migration offices, are employers, because it's a really quick and a really easy way of saying this person's that level, this person's that level, and yes, you can give them a visa, or yes, you can let them study at your university. Whereas if you're doing a Cambridge main suite exam, I think that you are the end user, the candidate's the most important person, and that's for me the main difference between this main suite and IELTS. Okay. So when we were sort of doing a bit of preparation is a very generous description of that word. When we were vaguely texting about different topics to talk about during our podcast, you mentioned this thing known as parsnips.
Oh yeah, lovely.
And so first of all, now casting my memory back, I swear I've heard that term somewhere before, and I've read it in a book, but honestly, I thought you were making a joke about Pasternak. I'm like, okay, you want to discuss Dr. Zhivago? Yeah, okay, great epic Russian novel.
I thought it was my initial stance. When I heard this term first time, I was like, what? We're talking herbs here? What's that? So yeah, I heard it. I think I heard it in Salter training actually, and but I was surprised.
For the uninitiated, parsnips is an acronym, pretty terrible acronym. But parsnip, by the way, in normal speech means this type of root vegetable known as Pasternak in Russian. It stands for, do you remember what it stands for? Because I looked it up just now. I wouldn't have remembered.
Politics? I think it is politics, something, then race probably, or religion. No? Could you, remind me. It
stands for politics, alcohol, religion, sex, narcotics, and pork.
And the last one is hilarious. Was it pork?
Pork, yeah.
Oh, jeez. This is, the very idea of introducing it is already kind of so prejudiced, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And basically it kills the whole content of my lessons. I mean, with my 18-year-old students, like they enter the classroom, what's happened with Billy while he's hangover? Oh, Billy had a nice, night. And it's like, and I should be like, hang on, stop here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get back to my job, commuting stuff. It's just.
Yeah. So just to explain as well, so basically when we list this list of topics, there's parsnips, politics, alcohol, religion, sex, narcotics, pork. What that means is in some schools of thought, an English teacher should always avoid those types of topics because it could be detrimental to the lesson, or it could be emotionally traumatic to someone in the class.
Yeah, offensive.
All, you sound like you don't have a very good opinion of this philosophy. Why are you against this kind of idea?
Well, if we're talking about some safe, ideal classroom environment, maybe it could work, but I just can't imagine if we're talking. I mean, first of all, we're teaching real people, and a lot of this stuff is so relatable, you can't ignore it. And secondly, again, if we're aiming at least some level of proficiency, I mean, not CP, but just making someone advanced enough, how can you possibly get a well-rounded knowledge of a language without talking about these things? I mean, this is so limiting.
And there's a definite reason why people thought of introducing this. There's a huge and a very rich segment of the English language learning world, which pumps a lot of money into the industry, which finances a lot of schools, a lot of teachers, and who don't particularly like having their feelings hurt or having their beliefs questioned.
Oh, right. I've never thought of that, actually, of that part of the world. Okay.
Well, you know which part of the world I'm talking about. What's the last P? Pork. What, you think that was Israel? Exactly. You think that was the Jews that don't like talking about pork because it's not kosher? Come on, what are we? It's like my right to discuss something in the class is more important, frankly speaking, than the right of Muslims not to have their feelings hurt. And I'm not asking for the right to disrespect their religion. I'm not asking for the right to, say something nasty or racist or bigoted. Of course not. But I'm going to talk about bacon if I want to talk about bacon. Sorry. And if you don't like it, then go and study in, some school where, they don't allow women to study, or, they don't allow, gays or whatever, and anything like that. It's such a silly idea that you can't. And again, religion. I wonder which religion we're talking about there. Sex, narcotics. I mean, this is it's the mentality of someone who doesn't like talking about stuff that's important in life. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, am I being too open here? Do you think that sometimes you need to not say something that you want to say in order to not hurt people's feelings?
Well, you as a teacher will definitely know the moment when you can't say something because you see a person might be offended, but this is not your intention in any way, right? To offend anyone, but it's so silly to. I mean, no, I'm on the same page with you here. I mean, you're not talking about. I mean, it's not too often. I mean, always the language, basically, especially when talking about English language, which is, in my experience, I'm extremely tolerant and polite when I speak English because the language makes me be so. And since we take this one as, most common, universal, whatever means of interaction, how can we possibly limit it to some topics and just forget about all the others? I can't imagine. And yeah, and it is impossible to speak freely with all this, thoughts in mind, like, okay, I should never say this and this and this and this just because maybe someone would be. Language don't live like that. I mean, they are, they're creative, and I mean, I as a linguist and a passionate one, I regard the language as a living system, as an organism, a body which kind of, evolves in itself. So
I think it's very appropriate, almost serendipitous that it's named Parsnips in honor of the great Boris himself. Because I mean, as you know, of course, he had a lot of trouble in his career with the powers that be, with the KGB, with Gleblit, with whoever it was. I studied Pasternak at university when I studied a course on censorship in the Soviet Union, and you know, the poor guy won a Nobel Prize and his book was banned. That's how stupid this kind of thinking is. And he wrote about this in his diaries, about like, what do you want me to do? I have these thoughts. What do you want me to not think them? Do you want me to not vocalize these? I can't not think a thought.
Exactly.
You're not the thinker of your thoughts. You're not the author of your thoughts. Thoughts arise spontaneously in consciousness, and if they do, there's a reason, and you've got to talk about it and discuss it. And you know, is there any thought that you think that people shouldn't be allowed to have?
No, I'm extremely thorough. I mean, I normally must say in my at university, in my university classes, I tend to have a poor discipline, because the guys I teach, they're all young guys, like 19, 20 years old. They're all like full of energy. They're full of ideas of all sorts. So, but they also, you know, good at language, and they're keen to study it. So I can't possibly stop them. So the discipline is crazy. The topics they sometimes discuss, but as long as they're using English, I'm happy. Yeah. If anyone entered, they would probably look down at us like, oh my God, what's happening here? But
yeah, that's so true. And that goes to you know, the idea that if you have a particularly controversial topic, or a topic that people have strong opinions about, strong feelings about, sometimes you feel very confrontational about that kind of thing, but it really makes you want to use your English, and you need you need to let the rational part of your brain overcome your monkey brain. You need to let the Apollonian side of your brain overcome the Dionysian side. You know, when I start speaking with someone, and like, I have a lot of people in my speaking club, and in people I've met in real life, who, you know, have opinions very, very different to my own opinions, who think that, you know, there's no one else but Putin who can rule Russia, that Stalin wasn't such a bad guy, that the Americans knocked down the Twin Towers, you know, etc., etc., that democracy is evil, things which I very, very strongly disagree with. But and when you start a dialogue with someone who you disagree with strongly, first of all, don't forget that they might know something you don't, and probably do. So you've got to listen to them very carefully. But you can't stop yourself. You can't stop the adrenaline rushing, your heart beating faster, you get a bit sweaty. It is a physiological reaction. You can't stop it, but you can say to yourself, look, this is just my monkey brain getting ready for conflict. Listen, have a dialogue, speak with people you disagree with. I can speak to people I disagree with all day long, as long as they don't use the argument from authority. I don't know if you watched my podcast with Mike Walker, but we were talking about this, you know, the idea of the Russian mentality, which drives me crazy, which is just like saying, when all of my arguments fail, well, you know, mentality, so I win. So as long as people don't do that, and as long as you're willing to have a productive conversation and respect each other and speak, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're a Nazi. You're a Nazi because you believe that Nazism is the best way for you to have a good future for your country, for your people, for your race, for your family. Okay, I think you're wrong, but at least we have that in common. At least we have the idea that what we want is a better future for us and our family, and we want security and we want prosperity. Yeah. At least we can start with that.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, they say humans have the same, no matter what position, country, the people have the same basic needs and fears. Like, no matter if you're rich or poor, you're afraid for your children's health, right? If your kid is sick, that would be a nightmare, no matter your, what your status is and stuff like that. So we have very common, you know, basic needs and thoughts and fears. And you were saying something. Yeah, I had some thought down. Yeah, I lost it.
No,
anyway.
okay. Yeah.
I mean, what I was saying is, very often, I like the idea you said, that very often you just, the people are doing this or saying this because they have some certain background or experience you don't know. And very often we tend to forget it, especially so on the internet. Sometimes people question your actions or your thoughts, or don't even question, but you know, these arguments start and you're like, yeah, but you don't know something that I do, right? And basically, and this is one point. And now Very often now I look at it from the other perspective. Now, when people like comment negatively, even in my community, I'm just like, yeah, it will take me long to explain, but I did it because I know something that probably you don't. So don't be that angry at this very moment. Yeah, I had my intentions. They explained. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking about, censorship and about, thought crime. Thought crime is the definition of a totalitarian state. Saying that there are not only things that you can't say, which is fair enough. Sometimes you're not allowed to distribute national secrets. You're not allowed to call for violence against another person. Okay, we all agree about that. Everything else is on the table as far as I'm concerned. And when you start saying there are things you can't think, that's when you know you're in dangerous waters. For example, I mean, I'm not going to talk about Russia. I'll talk about some European countries. In some European countries that have a legacy with fascism, it is illegal to deny the Holocaust. Now, I understand why they have that law. I understand why they came up with that law, but it's a stupid, stupid law. You should not, certainly the government should not tell people what they can say and what they can think. It's not going to work, because if you deny the Holocaust existed, if you're one of these crazy people who can't accept the evidence, who can't admit that the Holocaust was real, you should be free to say that to whoever you want. You should be free to go on TV and say that. And in the process, completely and utterly destroy your reputation and to become a public joke. That's why you need a free press. That's why you need freedom of speech, and to let, because I don't want, if you repress that speech, if the government says, no, you're not allowed to say that, all you do is you push that speech underground where it's going to bubble away. That's how terrorism happens. That's how you start extremist cells. I want my crazy people in the open. I want my crazy people on a rooftop shouting their crazy thoughts to everyone, so that you can see, look at this person, look at what this person's saying, and here's my argument, and here's why he's wrong or why she's wrong. That's why it's so stupid to tear down these statues. Like, there's a very good argument that you should tear down statues of slave owners. I get it, but I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to erase history and to say, in a very kind of Orwellian 1984 style way, this slave owner statue, he's now an unperson. I'm taking him away, I'm throwing him down the memory hole so that the whole process can start again. No, we should have statues of terrible people. I'm not for destroying statues of Stalin or even of Hitler. I think they should be there, and we should say, look at this horrible person, look at what he did. Or look at what she did. Probably he, most of them were men. Yeah. Look at what this person did. Look how terrible it was. This is why we shouldn't do it again. Leave the statues there. I don't know. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And I think that's why your country is full of these sit-ins and strikes everywhere. Well, at least in London. One of the first times I brought my students, I normally bring students to language school, used to before coronavirus. Yeah, once in a while. And so obviously it's, for most of them, it's the first time even abroad, let alone London. And we were there, and as usual, I think somewhere around Trafalgar, people sitting and, expressing their ideas about something. And the thing is that those were people sitting, obviously not English. They were protesting against something happening in Egypt, and my students were like, what are they doing? And there was a friend of mine, who actually has lived in London all his life, and he was like, well, they're protesting against something happened in Egypt because they probably have some roots there, but they're here. And my students were like, why don't they go to their country and protest there? And he was like, well, this is their country now. And I was like, yeah, this is a whole different perspective you have there. I mean, my students were shocked that you can express your thoughts about something they thought was pretty random. And it's like, why would they do that? Why would they go to another country, sit there and protest against something happening all around another country, on the other, side of the world? And you had this freedom.
Yeah, and I think you should definitely have the freedom to do that. But I think sometimes when you first started talking about that, I didn't realize they were actually Egyptian people. I thought that they were.
They were of course supported by English guys as well, but at least the ones who started it were Egyptians. And then there was of course some natives, and as usual, and police very friendly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, sure. And I was like, yeah, this is a whole different level.
So, I mean, here's the thing with a lot of people who go to protests like that, who are, you know, sort of middle class white people who've never been oppressed in their lives.
It's
Um,
true.
not to say that white people are never oppressed or never, you know, trodden down upon. Of course, everyone has their own story, but a lot of the time, people who go to those protests, so where, for example, in 2000 and when will this have been? 2010, 2009. There was the David Cameron had recently been elected as prime minister, as a conservative government, and because the credit crunch had just happened and the financial crisis, there was a whole wave of spending cuts that the government made, including to education, and this meant that basically the amount of money you need to pay to go to university essentially increased by 300% overnight. Which is crazy. So people are now, you know, I paid £3,000 a year, give or take, to go to university. My brother paid 9,000 a year.
Oh my God. Did you have to take out a loan or what? Because I can't imagine how you...
Everyone does. The student loans are quite, there's quite a good system we have in England. Anyone can go to university here. Everyone can afford to do it because anyone gets a loan. Then when you repay the loan, you only have to pay the loan if you earn a certain salary. And then once you get to 45 years old, the loan's cancelled. So it's a pretty good system. Most people pay their loans back. I didn't have to pay it for a number of years because I was in Russia. So,
nice.
But then, yeah, I mean, it wasn't cancelled. I still have to pay that debt.
Yeah, sure.
It just automatically comes out of my paycheck every month. It's like my pension. I don't know, it just comes out of my paycheck.
Right. Oh, it's a good system indeed. But anyway, 9,000 is definitely less than 3.
Yeah, that's true. But the point is that a lot of, so there was huge protests about this, huge protests, including people who were in my class, in my year, who were not paying £9,000, who went to these protests. And when I sort of started speaking to these people, I said, so why are you going to the protests? They said, because of the student fee hikes. Okay, but it doesn't concern you. Yeah, but it concerns my brothers, my sisters. Okay, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. What do you think the government should do? They shouldn't cut fees. Where's the money going to come from? I don't know. So why are you going to the protests? And honestly, one guy said to me, I said, why are you protesting? And he said, civil disobedience, isn't it? That's all he had to say. He just wanted to go so he could like be cool and you know, be amongst like the policemen on horses and stuff like that. Stupid stuff.
Well, I mean, it's fun, right?
Yeah, I've never been to a protest. It's not how I choose to express myself politically.
It's true.
I would rather have a debate with someone. I'd rather make a video about it, write a post about it. I don't like protest as a socio-political phenomenon, because the protest is always larger than the issue. You can never be guaranteed that your individual voice and your individual concerns will be associated dot for dot with the protesters. I don't like group mentality. I don't like groupthink. I don't like large groups of people, especially not protesters. And a lot of the time, this crazy woke nonsense that people like. Honestly, I heard about a protest once, which was gays for Palestine. So it was like, you know, against the, you know, what are you talking about? Gays for Palestine. If you were on Palestine, you would need to run to Israel because Palestine, they would kill you.
Absolutely.
It just don't, you know, go in for this crazy woke nonsense, and not from the left and not from the right. It's all groupthink, and it needs to stop. Yeah.
Thinking of this thought control, by the way, you know, I live in this city, which is a small one, and scientific. So I've got this for nuclear research, and it's like basically a big organization. A lot of countries take part, and one of them is North Korea. So the thing is, these guys, you know how they live. I don't know whether you know how, but they still have kind of Soviet style, and they have their KGB here, based here. So basically, they are sent here for about 1 year or so, or 2 years. They learn, they do experiments, and then just they carry out something, and then they go back. And once they get back to North Korea, they will have all they are given from the government, like the car and the flats, like, and they kind of brainwashed. You know, they all like love their chairman. Oh no, it's not the chairman. Or is it the chairman? Their language.
Dear leader.
Yeah, the leader, but not the one who is now the young one, but the ones who's passed away years ago. He's still like the one and only. Like if you ask them who created this poem or who made this, yeah, exactly. They will say
the
it's
only
him.
state on the planet which is technically the head of state is a dead man.
Exactly, and I mean when they're here, so they work and they're very nice people. So they come to work, and then in the evening when you have like parties or evenings, you just invite them. They cannot go because they are watched by KGB. They have to wear this kind of, what do we call it, pins?
Yeah, the Workers' Party pin. Yeah, I've got one.
If by accident they lose it, it's a nightmare. They get crazy because they may be arrested, and KGB watch their every step. And like imagine they live here. We are 100 kilometers from Moscow. They've never been to Moscow. They can't just go for the weekend, for example. Or they are not allowed to use the internet, but for work purposes. And the thing is, they have the opportunity because, you know, now they're in Russia. Like we have VK, we can download anything illegally. You have the internet. They don't do it themselves because they're so kind of, I think, brainwashed, but or maybe so, I don't know what to call it, but yeah, they're just like, why should I do it? It's like, come on, nobody will know. And there's no, I will never do that. That's just betrayal, you know, of my whatever leader or something. And it's amazing. You just look at these people, but they look all very happy.
Yeah, I think
satisfied, and you know, they know they will go home and they will have all the, you know, nice things for them and the family. Then they will probably have to do some nuclear research, I don't know, maybe bombs even, so that because all the other countries now heavily insist on them leaving this organization because they say you're basically teaching them how to make nuclear bombs or anything. But our government is of course no, of course not. Research, science is for everyone. So yeah.
What city are you in?
Dubna. Dubna.
Oaktown.
Somewhere there in the rural backwater. No, it's Moscow region. So we've got here the joint institute. Yeah.
Is it secret stuff?
No, not anymore. Do you think KGB will knock your door?
Probably GRU in the UK, not KGB. They won't knock on the door; they'll just rub it. Yeah. So is it like nuclear stuff that you're working on, or?
There is an institute for nuclear research. Like they have this booster and collider. People work in CERN in Switzerland. Here and back, the city was built around this thing. Yeah, we do have another, like a normal university, like university for students where I teach. But I also happen to teach some courses in this Joint Institute for Nuclear Research. This is like the major organization of the city. Like most of the people work there. Yeah, so these are nuclear scientists. But they will do all sorts of investigation. That's why I'm also keen on space. For example, a friend of mine works in a laboratory which analyzes probes from, that's an old one.
It's by the way, which is a picture of an oak tree with a hydrogen atom at the top. Well, no, helium atom, right? Because it's got two electrons.
Everyone says it's strange and random, actually, and they decided to rebrand it. But yeah, because it didn't mean much.
Like helium, so I'm guessing it's like that's a.
Might be. I'm not that good at chemistry, but.
Well, no, because it's got two electrons. Then element number 2 is helium.
They have to be 2, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a metaphor for fission. Are you working on fission?
So I'm saying my friend, for example, he works in a laboratory which analyzes probes from Mars, which is exciting. And because they're kind of trying to figure out how to prepare people for the Mars flight. So they study all this radiobiology, and these are the students which I also teach at university, like the radiobiology students. So it's really exciting because they're kind of doing something. That's why I'm like thinking every time I'm thinking about my PhD, I was like, who it will help on Earth? And these guys, they're really doing some stuff, you know, like they're analyzing the radiation, the effects of radiation on the human body, how to make better suits, maybe space suits to send people to Mars. So
yeah, that's super awesome. That what you're describing there in the scientific community, I've heard, is described as physics envy. That at the end of the day, no matter what you're studying, it's never going to be as fundamental as physics, because physics is fundamental you can possibly study. Yeah. So who's flying to Mars and when? From like Las Cosmos or?
Well, no one yet anywhere, but they're just studying and preparing. I don't know. There was a plan. I think there was this plan in, I don't know, was it NASA who were the first to send? Like a group. I heard there was some project where they kind of basically were looking for volunteers for a couple of years, and then they were supposed to be trained, because it's more about, you know, psychological training.
Yeah, I heard about that. I can't remember where that was, but yeah, it was. Yeah, they locked them in like an isolation tank, didn't they, to see what would happen?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it ended up with, because there was a lot of, you know, media friends around it, and then it just stopped. So I have no idea what's happening. So my guys, they're doing this all just for the sake of future research and flights, wherever those might be. Some of the friends also study like probes from asteroids to find life on asteroids. But it is really hard, because they need to make sure, because the asteroids falls on Earth, and they take it then and start analyzing. It's really hard to identify whether the pieces of life on asteroids are already from Earth or still from space. So they use this nuclear technology for that, this reactors, nuclear reactors, to kind of exciting stuff. It's such a shame I'm not good at physics. I would love to be able to work in this field, but it's good. At least I can teach them English.
Yeah. That's the I think the most famous thing about Chelyabinsk in the rest of the world is that a meteorite landed.
Oh yeah.
Like that's when you know that, no offense to Chelyabinsk, but you know, is that really a claim to fame that something fell on your town? We're famous because something fell on our town. Brilliant.
But they have become famous.
Yeah, big time. All right, Susan, we've been going for about an hour, so
time flies.
Yeah, speaking about physics, this has been a temporal wormhole, and it seems like no time at all, but there we go. Time flies when you're having fun, as they say.
Oh, I did have a lot of fun, really.
Super. All right then. Well, I will see you when I see you, and thanks very much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.